Well, hello, we're here on another ridiculously amazing agent podcast. If you can believe it, we made it to the last quarter of the year. It's also a good opportunity, though, to think about we are in the last quarter of the year. We got to end the year strong. And so, this is a time of year where a lot of agencies start planning, start thinking about what's next. And we also recommend that you guys do the same thing. So, for many agents, and some of the questions I'm getting a lot of right now is, what are we going to do differently? I think when COVID hit, we all kind of really banded together. Everything was strong. And then, we really saw that reduction in networking events. We saw the reduction in just general, agents being able to stop by places, shake hands, do the meetings. And so, what I want to dive into in this podcast is just some unique strategies that you can use to say, hey, I don't think going into cold and flu season that we're going to be doing a lot of the same areas that we might have been to generate new opportunity. And it's the same thing here at APP. I mean, we would get hired to speak somewhere between 24 to 30 times a year. So much of that's gone virtual, which is awesome. And if you're an association listening, we are loving the virtual. We're happy to help. But from a generation of opportunity standpoint, it's a lot different. Same thing with conferences and conventions. IAOA got bumped back a little bit. We would be going to Elevate, things of that nature. And I think it's just a time to really take a deep breath and say, hey, we have to learn how to adapt in this situation. We can't just say, well, there's no networking events. That sounds to me an awful lot like an excuse. And I know our ridiculously amazing agents out there are not into excuses, right? We don't make excuses. We find ways to get better. And so one of the things I've been seeing is that if you are a producer or in someone in a new business generation role, and your pipeline was not robust before COVID, it's definitely come to a screeching halt. If you are someone who had a pipeline, you've been able to work it, maintain it, and do some of those things. So I will say that from the new business generation standpoint, whether it's personal, commercial lines, whatever you've got going on, it is a great time to put pen to paper to think differently. And I want to challenge you guys on a few thought processes. Everyone has been talking about COVID and, what are the pluses and minuses? And there's definitely some pluses and there's definitely some minuses. I was at the gym the other day and I don't know what I was just, all of a sudden it just hit me. It's like, I hate COVID. Like, I don't hate a lot of things. Like I hate COVID. And I think all of us can probably relate a little bit to that. So one of the things that is just to kind of start this podcast off that I think that, if you're in a new business role that you have to be thinking about is how do we go back to the blocking and tackling? So if I look at the COVID list, this is on the plus list. When things are good, we don't do the necessary things we need to, that we know work. So for example, we know we love referrals, but when you've got so much new business coming in, the asking for referrals can sometimes slow down. The cross-selling, to the end of the earth can sometimes slow down. But when we become in more times of, maybe a little bit of slowdown or a little bit of regrouping, we go back to basics. And so it's time for all of us in any type of new business generation role to go back to basics. And I talked to a producer the other day who was like, I just hate video conferences. I don't want to do them anymore. Now, I understand that. I'm on video almost all day. I have never seen myself so much in my whole life than I have in the past 6 months. But we have to identify that there is more than one way to skin this cat. So just a couple ideas I want to run by you guys. First of all, what used to be the networking lunches, events, things like that, little different. But one strategy we've been using here at APP, which I really like, we just launched it and its first month's gone really well, is we actually send out 4 invitations for either a coffee with me, Kelly, a lunch with me, or a cocktail. And it's all done via Zoom. And we have an online vendor that it's all automated. They book on my calendar, they get a link, and they get a gift card to order lunch. And so versus us being, not being able to see each other as much. And for me, I'm all over the country in Canada. So, it's a lot different where I would see a lot of these people at different conventions. We're not doing that. So we're just having a meeting just to, and I make it very clear, this isn't a sales meeting. This isn't a pitch. This is just to say hello and honestly get, just catch up. And so, we've sent out, I think 16, we've gotten 9 back already, which is great. So in my calendar, there are 9 networking Zoom meetings, and some of them will be fun. They're like little cocktails, have a glass of wine with somebody on Zoom, talk a little shop. And some of them will be coffee and just a little like, what's going on? How can I help you? Just catch ups. And I think if you can stick out and be a little different, like that makes a big, big difference. One of the other things is in addition to just getting out there and trying to connect where we can is, I mentioned Zoom meetings, yes, everyone has their opinion on Zoom. For me, it's not my favorite thing to do. I definitely am longing and missing being in front of people. In fact, I'm speaking in front of a mastermind group next week, and they picked Zoom because we booked it a while back when COVID was definitely wasn't probably not a possibility. Everybody was going to be on Zoom, and they've reconverted to being in person, and they're like, you could still come by. And if it wasn't my 9th anniversary, I would have gotten in a car or would have gotten on the airplane and gone. But there are other options. And so there is one-way video. And if you've seen anything on video proposals, things like that, that is the idea that you shoot a video and you send it directly to the person, and it's highly personalized. And there's a lot of different vendors you can use. We've used Loom in the past, which is free. So you can just go to loom.com, free. I'm sure I'll put a link up to that in the show notes. Or we've upped our game and we're actually using Vidyard right now because we're big HubSpot users and it integrates. And the nice thing is I can see who's watching it. I can have a little personal conversation. Because when we email people, there's a big missing component of tone of voice, like huge. And honestly, people see an email, they scan it, they delete it, they move on, and we don't get as far ahead as we really want to. So I would definitely encourage everybody to look into one-way video. You can do everything from holding up a little whiteboard, like, hey, here we go, to, actually having a genuine conversation. So one of the things that we've been really good at is selling coaching hours during COVID, blocks of hours just to kind of help some people that have been struggling just on Zoom. And after everyone, I kind of shoot a Vidyard video, just get it over to the agency owner, letting them know what happened. And that has gotten a lot of great response versus just an email. So some things to consider are, how are you using video to stick out? And if it's something where it's like a connection, you'll definitely get people watching the video. If it's cooler lead, you have the opportunity to introduce yourself and stick out from the pack. I know everyone gets a little nervous. Oh, I don't like video. I don't like seeing myself. You got to get over that, guys. It's 2020. I mean, I have seen people like on video in their pajamas, in their bed. I've seen people who look like they literally just stepped out of Vegas from a 4-day bender on video. I'm not saying that that's the best way to do it, but what I can tell you is that there is the process of you have to get uncomfortable to get comfortable. So I've often used this reference when COVID really was like at its lowest point. The grocery store was kind of this scary, scary place, right? And by us, Instacart would be like 5 days out. And none of us are going to starve, so we brace ourselves to just go to the grocery store and, the shelves are empty and there's masks and there's all the social distancing and everything smells like sanitizer. And it just wasn't the same experience. Now today, like going to the grocery store was very rattling for me just because it was so different than our normal experience. And there was lines outside and it felt like a movie. Today, going to the grocery store is a lot better, number one, but I don't really think that hard about it. I grab my mask, go in, get my stuff, and leave. And Instacart's back to the same day, so I don't go that much anymore. But the idea is it's the same thing with video. The first couple times you do it, you should totally expect it to be weird, totally expect it to be weird. And then, you get used to it. And my biggest tip for video, I always say is, don't watch yourself again. Like if you really want to, that's fine. Maybe once just to check out it. But I shoot video almost every single day. And I don't remember the last time I've watched myself. Well, I did yesterday because I shot a high-end video that I needed to get over to editing. And I want to make sure the sound and lighting and everything wasn't horrific. But I wasn't critiquing myself. I was more making sure people could hear me. So that is one thing that you can think about, just shooting quick videos, getting them out there and introducing yourself to people. I'm going to rewind to back one step because I just looked at my notes and I missed something. People are asking a little bit about like, okay, so if I send out these Zoom meeting invites, what do I say? How do I say it? We just said to people like, hey, couple things. I'll tell you who we're sending them to because it could help you and your agency. We're sending to past clients, just for past customers that just say, hey, just want to reconnect. Still friendly, just, we solved the problem and moved on. We sent it to 4 vendor contacts. So people who also serve insurance agencies. So this could be like for you, real estate agents, mortgage brokers, attorneys, just centers of influence, just to catch up, see how they're doing, see what's new with their business and stay front of mind. We sent it to 4 people who have come to our website more than 30 times over the past 6 months. So they're highly engaged with our content. They know who we are. So when we send it out, it's kind of a like, cool, let's have lunch together. And then we're sending it out to 4 clients too. So while we have a lot of contact with our clients, we don't always have that just more social contact that we would get at a networking event of, how are the kids? What's this? We do a little bit of that, but a lot of times it's very meat and potatoes. So, now there's an opportunity just to kind of stay off the agenda and just chat. So if you're looking for, something along those lines, that's a good way to look at it. Another consideration on, reaching out and doing more virtual networking is really just, like I said this before, make it not a sales pitch. I say in all the emails, this is not a sales meeting. This is a casual lunch. This is something to kind of, just take and digest. And, the more times you have meetings like this, the more your name gets out, the more people become top of mind awareness for you, which is important. The next sales strategy I'm going to go over is something that I think we all need to go back to embracing, which is picking up the phone. A lot of things have gone by email, text, and trust me, I appreciate that, but I've always been a believer that a sales process is assisted by technology. It's not driven by technology. So technology can enhance our sales process, but it is not our sales process. It's the little added extra that, gets that next 10% of conversion. But we're seeing a lot more people needing to pick up the phone and start making phone calls. And so we have an agency that we've worked with for a while, and, producers are starting to need to do this. And so we've actually working with them to do a few layers of role playing. Now, if you hate role playing, I get it, but you more hate role playing because of the awkwardness than the outcome. And so if you really think about the outcome is, I'm going to pick up the phone and the first 10 leads I call are going to be a disaster. Or I could role play and the first 10 leads I call could convert into opportunity. You have to just understand it's the dress rehearsal. It is the awkward phase. It's the training. It's getting ready for prime time. So we're breaking it down like this. We're going to role play just as a sales group and just get the words out, get the strategy down, get the rhythm down, because your brain kind of needs to memorize and understand what that looks like, other than you get on the phone and be like, eh. Step 2 is they're actually going to role play to try to get through the gatekeeper at the agency. The agency's gatekeeper is pretty good. So they're going to make a few attempts as just a practice to find out, to try to get past the gatekeeper and have the gatekeeper give them some feedback of, hey, how does this get past somebody? Step 3 is, because now we want to get the muscle memory down, the comfort level down before we're prime time, is they're going to actually go ahead and call 10 just crappy leads. Stuff that you don't have a shot in writing, that you don't want to write, but just to practice live on the phone with somebody and see what happens. And if they get them and they have a quick conversation, say, hey, after learning a little bit more, this might not be a great fit, they get off the phone and move on, but they haven't wasted it. And then it's prime time. But don't disregard the importance of practicing and practicing and practicing and getting uncomfortable. And, the prospecting side is the long game. So if you're more of an inbound salesperson, you're used to the phone ringing, you pick it up and you do your thing. But as 2021 hits, I have a feeling like some things are going to change and we need to up our goals. And this is a new thing to add on. So, those are a couple tips we have. I also think for the, agencies out there now, more than ever is a time to utilize tools. So if you're, not engaging in social media to get your brand awareness out, that's a critical thing to start with. Many agencies I've spoken with over the past couple of weeks about marketing or, well, what's my ROI? What's the lead generation? And I have to kind of slow them down a little bit because a lot of it is just building awareness. I cannot get a quote if I don't know that you exist. However, I might not be ready to get a quote now. And so we have to build out some of that strategy and say, I can boost awareness, boost awareness, boost awareness. And I use this a lot for APP. I tell people, I meet you at a trade show or a speaking engagement, you won't buy from me for 2 years. And people are like, what? Now there's some immediacy, like somebody like, you solve this problem, let's do this right now. But I got to nurture you. But my number one goal is that when you have a problem, I'm the first person you call. And it works out pretty well. Same thing with you as an insurance agent. You need to build a network and a pipeline of people that you're constantly contacting so that when they have a problem, they're the first person they call. By the grace of God, sometimes you will connect with somebody that has a problem right when you're calling them, and that's amazing. But for the most part, you need to nurture, 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 nurture. And how do we nurture today? Well, we add value, right? Excuse me. One of the things that I think that in insurance we're really kind of terrible at is the idea that we need to become knowledge, experts. And I know the word expert in insurance is like, no, we never call ourselves experts. I get it. But for this podcast, understand the concept of it is that when people have a problem, we 9 times out of 10 go to the internet and search, right? Over the past 6 months, we've all probably searched symptoms of COVID because you had a stuffy nose and you're like, is it COVID? So think about whoever you want to write. Let's say you want to write contractors. You want to write contractors. Okay, great. Well, guess what? Contractors have problems. And guess what? Insurance solves problems. So your content shouldn't be about, workers' compensation insurance, yawn fest. No one's searching that. But what your content could be is, I think I have someone with a drug problem on my job site. They will go to Google to figure that stuff out. And if you keep presenting the best content, as far as, good quality information of this is how you should handle it, this is some things to consider, check your blah, blah, blah. Sorry, I need more coffee this morning. The other thing is, if you can build that content, it should have video and written word. And in today's world, you can actually find out who's going to that webpage and then send them retargeting ads, such as Facebook or a magnet, a lead magnet of some kind, like top 5 ways to get your workers' compensation insurance down. And today's sales cycle is long, right? You're pulling people through because we have information at our fingertips. Back in the day when it was the yellow pages, it was like, I have a problem, I call you, and it's a direct hot lead. Today it's, I have a problem and I'm going to do a lot more legwork in my pajamas at home than I am going to talk to somebody because I want to become educated. And so your job is not just to be an insurance agent, but it's to be an educator and to be a content person. Now, a lot of times we fight with agents on content. I don't want to do it. I don't know how, all the things. And I've kind of switched my tune on this a little bit. I think that if you have one channel, whether it's writing video, maybe it's a podcast, and you commit to it consistently, and by consistently, I mean at a minimum, and I think this is even low, but if I don't want to overwhelm people, at a minimum once a week, getting on that channel with high quality content, you will build a following. Now, don't look at it the first day, don't look at it the second day, don't look at third day. Do it consistently for a couple weeks and then go and look at it. And you will build a following of people who are interested in what you have to say. Now, you have to make the content interesting, right? So for me, if I were to talk about the nitty gritty down and dirty ways that we get people to make renewal calls, or the down and dirty ways that, we have a sales process, it might put you to sleep. We talk about the outcomes. We talk about how do you get your team to pick up the phone? How do you get your receptionist to not let people go through the front gate? And that's the kind of stuff that's searched, and that's the kind of stuff that people want good information on. So you're continuously branding yourself, and then you can retarget. But the idea is that one sneaky thing that is in everybody's job description today that wasn't before is twofold. One, we all have to master databases. So dirty data and just bad contact information isn't going to fly anymore. We can't be sloppy. We have to be very united. Number two, the next biggest thing that you have to do is you have to embrace the idea that you need to put content out there, because we're not going to be seeing people as much. But if you can become a leader in the industries that you want to go after and a point of reference for people, that really connects you. And when you get a lead, they're not going to talk to you about price. They're going to talk to you about what you do and how you can be a benefit to them. And I think that that's gigantic. So as we kind of go through a new phase here of what's next, I'm going to encourage everybody and leave you with these final thoughts of, I'm done with excuses. There are no excuses. You can blame COVID, but gosh, we've been doing this long enough. You know, people say the new normal. This is the new normal. Like, yes, you can hope for a vaccine and presidential elections and all this stuff, but I think that the biggest thing that you could do for yourself is not wait. We have a saying of, if you knew that, 2 months from now was going to be your worst sales month ever, I mean, like, couldn't put food on the table, what would you do differently now? Those are the things you have to do now. And my litmus test when I work with true producers is say that your child is ill and you need X amount of dollars to buy them the medicine, and it's crazy expensive, and you're in a commission sales role. What would you do? Say, I'd work my tail off. I'd get that money. I would do whatever it took. Why do we operate differently when it's not like that? We operate differently when it's not like that for one reason. We get comfortable. We get lazy. We get complacent. And those are the things I think we really have to fight against, because we can't just rubber stamp this year and say, oh, COVID. You're going to walk into January in a pretty dark place and pretty behind the 8 ball. So if this year has not been your ideal year, now is a great time to get the blocking and tackling, the ball rolling for January, so that you do hit next year strong. And things are going to keep continuously changing here, and maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. I feel like it's still going to be a yo-yo, and I just want you guys all to stack the deck in your favor. And if we do that enough, you will get there, and you will get all the goals that you'd like to see. But the idea is that you got to take one step forward. And even if it feels awkward, I love the saying, like, if it feels awkward, it's working, because it's so true. So if it feels scratchy, feels icky, feels painful, feels uncomfortable, do it 10 times and see if you still feel the same way. But don't do it once and be like, oh, that didn't work. Of course it didn't work. It's a law of averages. The things we talked about here are simple, but they're not easy. And so what I mean by that is, like, getting started is your hardest step, but don't back away from it. You got this covered. We got this all covered. We're going to be awesome. But also don't lower your standards. Don't forget to hit your potential, because I think the biggest thing that you can do is figure out, while everybody else is, on the couch with their COVID 15 pounds added on and making excuses, this is your time to be exceptional. And this is your time to shine, and this is your time to take over markets. So get up, get to it, and let us know how it works out for you. We'd love to hear from you as we kind of end this year. Thanks for letting me bend your ear a little bit about how we can all rise to the challenge of generating new opportunity during this time frame. And if anybody has any other suggestions, please leave comments. Please email us. We'd love to hear from you. Bye, guys. Hope you have a ridiculously amazing day.